Did you know that if you spend just a little bit of time in your kitchen, you can actually turn a profit? Well, stick with me and I'll show you how knowing what and when to buy certain ingredients at the grocery store will help you to stockpile your pantry with nutrient-dense ingredients. And not just this week, but month after month in ways that will save you 40% or more off your grocery and medicine budget. Oh yeah, and this is without clipping coupons or store memberships. Now here's how you do it. First, you stick to a grocery guide. And each month, I email you a monthly grocery guide that lists the seasonal fruits, veggies, and other cyclical sales and markdown items that are going to be at their lowest price and best taste. Then we pair that with the preservation plan and we determine not only how much are you going to eat fresh, but also ferment, can dehydrate, whatever, so that you have enough to last when you can no longer source it inexpensively or grow it yourself. So then you take those focus foods and that's what you meal plan around for the month. Which is why you want to use those half-sheet recipe cards that I include in your grocery guide and tuck them in your own recipe box or binder, because in a minute I'm going to show you delicious soups, sides, breads, medicines, and more that you'll want to make this month. So first, let me read the grocery guide, and then you're gonna join me in making these recipes. All right, so the fruits that are in season and that you're going to want to meal plan around this month include
apricots, pears, blackberries, cantaloupe, Concord grapes, cranberries, figs, honeydew melon, kiwi, nectarines, peaches, pears, plums, pomegranates, raspberries, and watermelon.
And the vegetables that are in season that you want to meal plan around this month include
arugula, asparagus, beets, bell peppers, broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, corn, cucumbers, eggplant, green beans, lettuce, okra, peas, radishes, spinach, summer squash, tomatoes, and zucchini.
Seeing how it's already September, darling, this is your last call to get fresh summer corn, which not only tastes exceptionally better than anything you can get in a can, but is one of the cheapest and most versatile summer veggies that you can buy, hands down. That's because when you opt to buy ears of corn, you can make corn cob stock, which rivals in taste to chicken broth, and I am officially on the record for saying that it tastes better than chicken broth. You'll also get a fertilizer amendment that is immediately ready for your fall garden, as well as a potent medicine that supports stabilizing your blood sugar and lowering your cholesterol. Yeah, none of those claims are exaggerations. Take a look.
So I'm actually working with 2 batches of corn. The set on the counter is locally grown organic corn from the farmer's market up the street, while the corn in the basket is what I caught on sale, 10 ears for $1 at the grocery store. Sometimes when I need a bit more countertop space in my townhouse kitchen, I just spread a towel on my stove and it serves as a work mat. So what I need to do next is shuck the corn, which is what you call removing the outer husk and the corn silk from the ear of the corn. And speaking of the corn silks, which are these golden strands, you always want to make sure that they're either yellow, pale green, or light brown, and that they feel moist, because if they're soft and sticky, that's your indicator that the corn was recently harvested. But if the silks are dark brown and dry, that's a clue that the corn has been sitting for a while. Anywho, I'm saving my corn silks because they contain high amounts of flavonoids that neutralize free radical damage in the body, minerals like magnesium and potassium, alkaloids and saponins that help your body's ability to regulate blood sugar and blood pressure. I'll leave research links below, but whatever you do, don't throw them away. Once your jar is filled about halfway with fresh silks, pour 80 proof vodka over the corn silks until completely submerged. Seal and store in a cool, dark place for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then strain to remove the solids. The typical dosage of corn silk tincture is about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, taken 1 to 3 times daily. Okay, so now I've got all these corn husks, which I'm not tossing out either because I've got a clever way to use them. So instead, I'm going to take them to my deck to dry out in the sun, but you could also do this using your oven or your dehydrator, and we'll get back to these in a bit. But now it's time to go back in the kitchen and shell the corn, and I snagged this basic corn husk sheller at Aldi a few years ago for like $2.99, and it makes easy work of popping those kernels right off of the cob. See, this is what it will end up looking like, and it takes less than a minute per ear of corn. The kid in me loves it when the corn clumps like this. It's a sign of hand-shucked corn harvested at peak ripeness. So this is the amount that I got out of about 20 ears of corn. Okay, minus a few spoonfuls that I ate raw because fresh sweet corn is so good. Now, we're not done with those cobs yet. Take a baking sheet, line it with a silicone mat, and then place your cobs with a bit of sliced onion and truly whatever fresh or dried herbs you have on hand. Now, I've got tons of dill and parsley growing out back, so that's what I happen to be using. Baking corn cobs before making stock enhances their flavor through the browning and caramelization action, which creates a deeper, roasted, and slightly sweet flavor by browning those natural sugars and proteins that are in the corn. So this process really helps to concentrate the corn's flavors and release those aromatic compounds, resulting in a richer, more complex, and fragrant stock that you just can't taste when the cob is raw. So you're gonna let your corn cobs roast on low for about 45 minutes or so, and then you're going to transfer them to a large stock pot. Now, I'm just using my roaster, but you're going to cover your cobs and whatever veggies and herbs you use so that they're fully submerged. And then you'll let that come to a boil. And after it reaches a boil for a couple of minutes, you'll reduce the heat and let it simmer for about an hour to extract the flavor from the cobs into the stock. While that's doing its thing, we can fill our jars with the fresh corn. Now, corn is a starchier vegetable and it will swell a bit in your jars, so don't fill them past the halfway to 3/4 full mark. Then you're going to fill your jars with water, the cob stock, or chicken stock, which is what I prefer to can my corn in because I love using my corn stock for other recipes. Next, you're going to place your 4 jars lids on top and apply the screw bands. Now, when you do this, you just want to do it fingertip tight so that you still have a loose fasten. So once the stock is done simmering, you're going to remove the pot from the heat, and I'm straining the solids by tucking my colander into a bowl to capture both the solids and the stock in one foul swoop. All right, let's go ahead and start to then fill our jars. And y'all, oh, look at that beautifully golden copper corn stalk. All right, with the corn and stock ready, let's add our pint-sized jars to the pressure canner to process for 75 minutes. Going back to the husks, which are now dry and crunchy, I'm just going to take them and pulverize them in my blender. Know why? Well, corn husks are rich in cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, which break down slowly in the soil, adding organic matter and improving soil structure. So when dried and pulverized, they can help retain moisture, suppress weeds, and gradually release those nutrients, making them an excellent mulch or soil amendment for fall and winter crops. So guess who's not buying soil amendments or mulch? This girl. I think I've got my money's worth from my ears of corn. Here's another dish that I absolutely love making this time of the year, corn chowder, and I've got a version that comes together fast and uses healthy ingredients. After heating olive oil and butter in a pan, chop up some red onion, and then you're going to take a few slices of bacon and start to fry that in a separate pan. So while that's frying, return to your main pot and add the red onion and mixed garlic, and then measure out your quinoa, and I'm using this gorgeous red blend mix. You're going to go ahead and add that also to your pan. Then mix the onion and the quinoa and ladle in your fresh summer corn to incorporate that. Afterwards, you'll pour in a 2-to-1 ratio of chicken stock and full fat milk, or half and half, and let your quinoa, the corn, and the onion tenderize, which will give you time to dice your potatoes. Bam! Here's your secret ingredient, Old Bay seasoning, which I'm partial to as a born and raised Maryland girl because this spice blend was created in the 1940s in Baltimore. This is truly the only seasonal ingredient that I add or that you need for this recipe. So earlier in the month, I caught shrimp on sale and I broke it down into smaller portions. I'm now just popping some out that I froze this summer from the larger bag that it came in. But here's what I'm working with on the stove. Delicious. Look at that creamy, savory broth. Now let's go ahead and add our shrimp and ladle this into our bowls. Sprinkle on some parsley and that crisp fried bacon, and you've got a nutritionally dense all-in-one meal that will fill you up on taste and sustenance in just 30 minutes. The link for this recipe is in this month's grocery guide. I love corn chowder so much that this is a meal that I batch cook and pressure can to create my own shelf-stable soups that I'll definitely be reaching for this fall and winter. This corn chowder will be chicken instead of shrimp-based, and it omits the milk and quinoa, which are two ingredients that aren't approved for home canning. And that's fine because all you have to do is add them when you go to serve your soup. Every jar that I fill now is a healthy meal that is low in sodium, doesn't contain synthetic preservatives, has the nutritional benefits of real homemade broth, keeps our food budget reasonable, and this is completely cooked so it can go from the shelf to the plate in minutes without a big cooking production when I come home from work. This is why I am such a food preserver. It's the best way to meal prep at scale. The link for this recipe is in this month's grocery guide. Yep, we're still going to add our good old Bay seasoning, and then we're going to get our quart-sized jars, which are perfect for a meal for two, and spoon that goodness inside. Y'all, I plan on taking this first batch to work to keep as my own shelf-stable food stash. Let me tell you, this moment smells so good, and look at these pretty jars. So finally, we're going to add a few bay leaves, and then secure their tops and lids, and then into the pressure canner for 90 minutes they go. Now, here's an appetizer or snack that really debuts the deliciousness of fresh corn in a cheese dip that you are going to love. So after sauteing pepper and onion in a pan, you're going to go ahead and add your fresh corn. And then you're going to toss in some garlic and stir that to combine, and then cut the heat and transfer this mixture to a bowl where you're going to add some mayo to moisten things up. And then you'll season with a bit of pepper and just a pinch of brown sugar. And then you're going to transfer this back to the pan, and you'll top it with shredded mozzarella cheese and then broil just for like 2 to 3 minutes until things are bronzed and bubbly. Immediately out of the oven, you're going to sprinkle this with a bit of smoked paprika, and then you've got the perfect nacho spread in 15 minutes.
Went through a lot of ways that you're going to want to take advantage of fresh summer corn. And really, we haven't even scratched the surface, but honey, I've got to move on to all the other seasonal goods. Like figs, and you only have a short amount of time to get them fresh. Goodness, if there's anything that gets better than plucking a ripe fig off of a bush and plopping it into your mouth, I don't know what it is. And plus, there are going to be all kinds of late fall and winter recipes that I want to debut with real figs. But if I wait months from now to get them, A, I won't find them fresh. And B, after September, figs are going to be extremely marked up in stores, which is why this easy water bath canning recipe is how I stock my pantry full of them.
This recipe starts by making a simple syrup that's lighter on the sugar because the figs are already sweet. So I'm using about 5 1/4 cups of water to 2 1/4 cups of brown sugar, along with just a tiny splash of real vanilla extract. Here are my beautifully fresh figs, which I'll just pop the stems off of. Yum, these are so tender. It's going to be hard not to eat a few as I do this. Now, figs need to be blanched before canning, which is what you see me doing here. And you'll want to leave them in the canning syrup for about 5 minutes before adding a few spoons of lemon juice. And then you'll just spoon them into your canning jars. So first, I'll just add the figs. Oh my goodness, doesn't that just look stunning? Now here's what my light canning syrup ended up looking like. What I love about canning figs is that you do not need a pressure canner. A tall stock pot used for water bath canning is perfect. You just submerge your jars in rapidly boiling water for 15 minutes and voila, you'll have canned figs on your shelf.
If this is our first time meeting, hi, I'm Cassandra from the blog BecomingAFarmGirl.com. I'm here to help you cook with what's on sale, in season, and already on your shelf. Combining that with learning how to make your own convenience foods from scratch and preserving it yourself, you'll start to see that you're playing a whole different grocery game than everyone else. And you'll find that you're finally able to consistently put delicious meals in front of your family in a way that doesn't stress you out. To get my free grocery guide delivered straight to your inbox, click on the link in the description box or in the pinned comment. So real quick, let's jump to the garden because we need to harvest some medicine, and I've got the fanciest little appetizer that your house guests are gonna love.
One of the 5 GreenStalk planters on my deck is dedicated just to growing culinary and medicinal herbs, and my echinacea that I've planted since late spring has finally bloomed with the end of the summer heat. Echinacea is known for its immune-boosting properties and has been used for centuries to reduce the severity and duration of colds and respiratory infections. This beautiful herb contains all of these active compounds that stimulate white blood cell production, and echinacea also has anti-inflammatory and other antioxidant effects, making it a very popular remedy for general immune support. So all of the plant parts are medicinal, but for this tincture, I'm using the blooms and the leaves, and then later this fall, I'll make a tincture using the roots. Now, if you've priced what over-the-counter medicines are rocketing to, a minimum of like 10 to 12 bucks for just a few ounces, along with the unknowing additives, growing herbs that provide therapeutic properties and other constituents just makes sense, especially when the yields are cut and come again or return season after season like echinacea. Plus, tinctures are just super simple to make. You just fill a jar a little over half full with your herb, completely submerge your plant matter with a high-proof alcohol that's at least 80 proof, like vodka. Y'all, this is exactly what I'll reach for as soon as I feel a tickle in my throat. The last step is to label the contents of your jar and the date that you bottled it so that you can track when it's ready to decant. Anytime after 6 to 8 weeks is good. Another herb y'all know I grow way too much of each year, and that's kind of on purpose because I love it so much, is basil. And I am excited to share how you can make your own fancy pesto cheese ball that's perfect for snacking or as an appetizer that will be a hit at your next gathering. You just blend together your standard pesto ingredients, and I include the stalks because they have great flavor and they don't have a discernible texture difference, so why not? So you actually just saw me sneak in some spinach that I wanted to use up, and then I'm adding my Parmesan cheese and garlic. Yeah, not measuring because I just make this so often. I'm adding now a little bit of olive oil, and then I'll give everything a good pulse in the blender. Okay, so the next step after this is to line a bowl with parchment paper, or you could just use an oven bag like I am, and then you'll just set this aside. Meanwhile, in another bowl, you're going to combine cream cheese and goat cheese really, really well. And then you're going to create basically a layer of this spread into your lined bowl. Now, once you do that, you're going to smooth that layer down, and then you're going to spread a layer of the pesto that we just made on top. Followed by some toasted walnuts or the nuts of your choice. You're truly just adding crunch. On top of the nuts, you'll spread a thin layer of salsa or freshly diced tomatoes that you've probably got from the garden. And then you'll repeat these assembly steps because you've truly built flavor that cannot be denied. I mean, you've got creamy, savory, crunchy, and chunky. All right, so after all that assembly fun, you just take the bag and you use it to shape your layers into a ball. So you want to compress some of the air out, and then stick this in the fridge to chill for at least 4 hours and up to overnight. All right, so this is the next day, and boy, I cannot wait to spread this over veggies or crackers. Here's what your pesto ball looks like, and I realized that the plate that I grabbed was a little too small, so I changed it out real quick. This ball pairs well with anything, but I had some sliced cucumbers from my garden that I needed to use up, so that's what I paired it with. I mean, look at those beautiful layers. If you like pesto, cheese, and garden fresh flavors, this is exactly the protein and calcium packed treat that will be a hit.
weather on the horizon, fall is when I normally turn back to making homemade breads. And a simple one that freezes great are homemade croissants. Turns out they are so easy to make and tastier when they don't come from an exploding can. And they can be made for pennies when you no longer need to buy them from a fancy bakery.
All right, now let's get to a quick croissant recipe that's in this month's grocery guide. These can be made in batches and frozen, but you'll start off by combining melted butter with milk and a teaspoon of quick rising yeast. And then you're going to stir that together and let it sit for just a couple of minutes. Then you're going to add your eggs. You're actually going to crack and add one full egg and then add the yolk of another. And then you'll stir to combine that. Now set this cup aside for just a quick minute because you'll need to grab your standing mixer, and then you're going to gradually pour in your flour along with a little bit of sugar and salt. Allow those dry ingredients to mix together for a bit, and then you're going to gradually pour in your yeast mixture. So after the stand mixer does its job, you're going to stop it and then take it out and shape it into a ball with your hands. And then you're going to place your dough into a large bowl that you'll cover and allow to rise for 1 hour in a warm place like your oven. And then after that time, you'll flour your counter, and now it's time to shape your dough into croissant rolls. So you'll have to roll out your dough into a pizza crust size, making sure that your crust is relatively uniform in thickness. And then I'm intuitive, not precise with this next step, which you don't need to be. So you just use a pizza cutter to cut triangles and roll up each triangle from the base to form the croissants. Dab with just a little bit of butter, and then you're going to shape the croissants on a baking sheet and let them rise for 1 hour. I'd say that these aren't looking too bad for freehand, right? So during this time, you want to make sure that your oven is preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. After they've plumped up from their 1 hour rise, you're going to brush the croissants with egg wash. And I don't know what happened to my pastry brush, so I'm just using my hands. Then you're going to bake them for 20 to 25 minutes until they're golden brown. These croissants come out so dense and soft and moist. So it's more like on the roll side than the flaky pastry. And I like that, again, because this is a no-fuss recipe that does not require you to be perfect. I paired these with some salmon that we were having and some fermented diced tomatoes. To
get more inspiration for your from scratch preservation kitchen, click on the video on your screen. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.